30 seconds?
Yeah, we're set, man. It's all you.
All right, good. So this talk was inspired by a radio segment I heard a couple of months ago. I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about Xiaomi, the newish smartphone company. And this fall, they're only a couple years old, but this fall, they're in China, and they've been taking over a lot of market share. And on the 1st of November, at least, is when they said they had catapulted into the 3rd largest smartphone manufacturing spot, right behind Apple and Samsung. Apple and Samsung are probably the biggest household names, but the other names they overtook are pretty big too. You have LG, a company that's been around since World War II, and then you have Lenovo that really came up in the 80s when we were seeing a big technical revolution. So Xiaomi comes onto the scene, and they start selling smartphones in China. They take off like wildfire, and they sell enough of them, obviously, because China is quite large, that they take over that 3rd place spot. So they did a couple of things to garner that success. First, they basically copied Apple, so a lot of their phones and devices look like established devices on the market. And because they didn't have to spend any money on innovation or anything unique, they were able to come in with a price point that was competitive for that market. So they were able to put smartphone devices into the hands of first-time consumers of those types of devices. So when I got home, I listened to this segment. It was a short segment. It was part of Market Watch or something else. I did a little bit of census research because I was kind of interested how this fit into what I do as a professional. And so the first thing I looked at was computer saturation. So I thought, okay, so if these are going into the hands of first-time smartphone owners, how many of those are first-time internet users? So I looked at device consumption across the different countries. The US, we actually have over 100% saturation of computers to people. We have 114% saturation of computers to people. Now that's not 100% of everyone in the US having a computer. Obviously, a lot of us have multiple devices, but the margin of people without computers or without access to them is relatively small. China, on the other hand, has 1 computer per 5 people. So if you take the same learning from the US, you can extrapolate and say, well, probably 1 person out of every 5 also doesn't have a computer. You probably have some people in institutions that have more. So that number of people without computers is probably even larger than that. And India, the market that Xiaomi is now talking about expanding into, is twice as or half of China, depending on how you look at that fraction. So they have 1 computer for 10 people. So what does that all mean? Well, the US, with our 100% almost saturation of internet users, China and India, we only occupy 4.4% of the world population, where China is 19%, India is 17.5%, and then you look at the portion of those that are without any internet access, so without computers, without smartphones. There's quite an open market of users that are not on any type of device. And that's where I started thinking about that first-time internet user really being important in the mobile world. So in America, this is our first-time user. Sometimes it's your grandma, but usually it's a baby. 38% of children under the age of 2 use iPhones or iPads, or actually touchscreens. I just generalize, iPhones and iPads. In China, however, those first-time users picking up that Xiaomi phone are across all generations, including the most coveted, that millennial group. So what does that do to the market? When I learned a computer, this was my first computer. Wozniak didn't sign it for me, so I got that picture off the internet. But it was this Apple IIe, and I learned on KidPix. And I loved this computer, and it kind of set the ball rolling for my entire career as a web professional. But I remember having a really hard time cognitively mapping this device with this upright plane, where with new users, that baby photo, the first thing you learn as soon as you can crawl is you push something and it moves. So this is a very natural interface for somebody to interact with. So that brings about something something cool, because it creates, if you think about the statistics, you think about all those people who have never touched a device before. None of them have had the internet before. Xiaomi is just one competitor in the space that's having success right now. There will probably be others that hit the market. But the internet is taking off among a consumer segment, billions of people large that have never been online before, and they're getting this for the first time. They're not going to go to this or even this, because even if they got to the point where they could afford this, as an adult, me trying to learn how to use a mouse doesn't make sense. Now the touchpad, it's a little bit of a hybrid in between the two, but if I'm really comfortable in that touch interface, I'm going to stick to that. I might get something larger. I might get an iPad, or I might see some of those Microsoft Smart Tables kicking around on eBay. But ultimately, I'm going to stick to the device that I'm most comfortable with. So I started mulling that over, and I started thinking, again, what does that mean to me as a web professional, as somebody who builds websites? That means that if you have 2 billion people across China and India who are getting internet for the first time, all of the local small corner businesses suddenly want a piece of that pie. They can't afford to hire us as a US agency to build them a website. They know that all of their consumers are mobile only. And so really, that conversation that we used to have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, depending on how long you've been in this industry, where we would sit down with our clients and we'd say, you really need a mobile site. It needs to be adaptive, or if you were up on the lingo, you would use responsive. But for the most part, they would say, well, our budget's kind of limited. None of our customers are on mobile devices. I don't know if we can, and they would hem and haw, and the mobile site would get taken off the table until they regretted it a couple years later, or even use this device. I actually used an iPhone 4 to build a website from start to finish, launch it with no computer. And I went ahead and did it. So it took me, I went home and it took me a couple hours, and it only took a couple hours because I did a lot of fumbling. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know how to do on my phone, but I had used a couple of like SSH apps and stuff. So what I did, I'm going to go ahead and go through a demo and build you a website here. These are small, but they're just my notes. So there were a couple of things I had to do to get started. Just with any website, you'll have to purchase a host. You can do that on your phone. Create a database and a database user, and then you'll have to give SSH access to one of your users through your administrative console. If you're setting up the user that you use to FTP in, that's usually a checkbox that you select for SSH. I also found some free apps, so I didn't pay for a single thing while I was doing this, other than using the host that I already use for sandboxing stuff. So to get started, I used Media Temple. So Media Temple launched their mobile interface in August, and I used WordPress for a lot of important reasons, a lot of good reasons. Obviously, we love WordPress, But beyond that, they launched their mobile interface for administrators in December of 2013. It has built-in automatic updating, built-in plugin and theme installation. So because I was using my phone, I didn't have my hard disk at my disposal. So I had to do everything over remote connections, and WordPress was allowed me to do that. So let's use my phone here. I'm just going to show you the account center. I already set up my database and everything, just to give you a sense of how this would work if you were using your own host. Your own host probably also has a mobile interface, but you would go in here and you would edit your FTP users and set one to have SSH access. Just as with any host, there's file management in here. This is important later on in the demo, because you can actually use this to set your file permissions on your uploads folder. You'll need that to install themes and plugins. And then, of course, the big one here is the manage databases. So that's where you would create your database in PHP MySQL, just as if you were doing this on your computer. It's all the same process. So the first thing I want to do, I've already created my users here. The first app that I have is called Server Auditor, and it's a free app. It's a terminal app. So I'll make all my slides available later. You don't have to write down all the terminal commands. I have them all in sequence, and I've tested them multiple times, so they work pretty well. So in my terminal app, if I didn't save a connection, I would do a new connection, and I would put in, this is really bad accessibility here, but the username, it has the server that I'm connecting to, and the password. I have mine saved already. So we'll go ahead and connect, and then I can rotate that. All right. So I'm on my server. I'm on the file system. How many of you use Terminal at all? About half the room. So the one disclaimer I'll give is if you've never used Terminal before, remoting into your server and deleting stuff and moving stuff around is always something that you want to have somebody next to you advising you the first time you do it. You don't want to delete any live servers. I am working on a live host here because the whole point is I don't have a local dev environment, but it's just a sandbox server I use. So my first command here is I need to change directories into my web root. So I have, get that out of the way. So I need to change directories, and I think I'm going to domains. No. I'll do that for now. So I'm in that directory, and if I use ls, that lists the contents of my directory. So I can now see my HTML directory. So I'll change directories into my HTML directory. And ls again. No, backspace, or backspace. Okay. And I don't see anything in my directory. That's because I set this up as a new share in my host, but I haven't put anything into it yet. So let me go ahead and get this next line. Now, WordPress is cool because what they've done is through their URL structure on their site, they have wordpress.org/latest.tar.gz. That's GZ for gzip. There's also a .zip version of this, but you can actually connect to that directly from the server and transfer it from one server to the other server. So this is what this is the first thing. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it on my phone because usually I'm used to downloading that file and unzipping it and uploading files. So this allows me to do that without it. So I do wget, that's my command. And then Media Temple, when I first did this, gave me a weird error message, so I had to set a flag. But for most hosts, you probably don't have to do it. I think it's because I'm on a shared host or something, maybe. It's a certificate error. So I had to do no check certificate. And space. WordPress.org, latest.org. All right, so it transferred the file. Now if I ls, I should see that file. Yep, sure enough, I see latest.tar.gz. So that is now in my host directory. It's in my root directory. I could actually browse to my domain name / that file name if I wanted to download it. So now what I need to do is unzip it. So I have tar xfz is the command. It's doing something. It says nothing, so that means nothing's broken, hopefully. Okay, so now I see my WordPress directory in addition to latest. So now what I want to do is I want to move all of the files from within WordPress up a directory to my web root. So this is cp-rpf. Star. Let me double check. I think that's right.
Do you want to delete everything
in the WordPress directory?
Oh yeah, I need to cd into WordPress. You're right. Okay. So it's a good thing I didn't do that.
You using WordPress, or that's good too.
WordPress. Okay. Now ls, and I'll see all my WordPress stuff. So I think that was cp
RPF.
RPF asterisk, and then the dot is up a directory. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's recursive to go down. I'm almost done with the command line stuff, and then we'll get with the easy stuff.
Here's where you wish you had a Bluetooth keyboard.
Nope. That's cheating. Alright. LS. That should have given me everything, but yeah, I'm missing my WordPress folder. So now let me do the same thing. Remove, file, latest, .tar, .gz. Now, of course, I could have saved all of these in text file, but you know, all of us should be memorizing these commands, so we can do this while we're waiting for the metro.
That's force file, just a heads up.
Yeah, F is force, not file, so I'd be really careful.
RM
And I would
dash.
generally be really careful typing RM, RF on a mobile device.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we're ready. We're ready. So I'm done with the terminal for now, and then there's something I'll have to do later on. So now I'm ready for the more easy part. So I'm going to go to my domain. Now that I have uploaded WordPress, I can do my famous 5-minute install. Go to my test domain, and there we are. There are new files. All right. So I'm actually going to cheat only for the purpose of this demo. Here, if I select this and continue and go to the next page, that's where it'll have me put in my database username and password. Unfortunately, the setup screen for WordPress doesn't asterisk the password, and I don't want to give you my database password. So what I have done is actually already created the file that process creates. So I've already created my config file. So I can go ahead and drop that in. Now, when WordPress creates this, it automatically sets it as 666. So I'll go ahead and do the same, just for security measure here. Now, if I refresh my browser in here, it will think I've already advanced past that screen. Okay, try installing now. Uh-oh.
Wi-Fi not working. Live demos, love them.
This is breaking territory, by the way. This is the boldest live demo I've ever seen.
So I'm going to delete that and go ahead and reveal my temporary user's password.
Or just unplug your phone.
No, that's no fun.
All right, everybody close their eyes.
Though it said database connection error, so I hope that's not some other problem.
Do they use different database URLs based on the grid? Like maybe your configuration was right, but it was going to the wrong URL.
Well, I created this site, and then I deleted the site and just saved the config file.
Okay.
So my database should be all cleared out and everything. So let's see what I need to do here. So that should have been right. Okay, now let's refresh the screen. Continue. Okay. go.
Put one of the other things in front of you.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll put my password in front of it. It's all right.
You're among friends.
WP.
Thank goodness for small font and full color contrast. I could stand in front of the door.
I will say your biggest enemy when doing this is the auto caps lock.
Easy. You can type on you.
Yeah.
Or whatever you ask for Kevin. They have no auto caps and you got an auto cap on your password on purpose or no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. And this is the big annoying one.
You got a number there wrong password.
Oh, yeah. How did you read it? What is the make check on your stuff?
All right.
They said you fat fingered up there.
Moment of truth on the install.
I didn't change it.
Yes. Yes.
I close that other
Right.
file.
Yeah, this is where everyone on the live stream starts messing with my site's database.
We got 2 viewers.
If one's
All right,
Russell,
so site title, let's just call this Hello WPDC. Good old secure username, admin. Password twice.
password.
Password twice.
Very weak. No, really think?
Okay. And my email.
Do.com.
I'm gonna turn that off and install WordPress.
Quit using here, everybody.
Success! We now have a website and I can log in as administrator.
Everybody else with keyboard does.
If I can remember what my username was.
Capital A wasn't.
Twice. Log in. Oh, no.
Woo!
And there's my handy mobile WordPress admin interface.
David has your picture.
So now I could immediately go into plugins and themes and select a plugin or a theme to install. But I know from trial and error, that I will actually get a permissions problem doing that. So this is where I have to go back to that annoying terminal app and do other things that you generally don't want to be doing on your cell phone, like changing permissions of your file structure. So let's see where I ended up here. I'm in the root directory, so I need to cd into mains.
Read it there,
Now, I mentioned I could do this through the host. So the file manager through my host interface would be safer than me doing this. The problem with the Media Temple file manager, it's relatively new, and they haven't added a recursive functionality. So it actually have to apply permissions to everything in the folder. Now, a fresh folder shouldn't have too much, but still, that sounds like a lot of work to me. And I'm building a website on my cell phone, so I want that to be more efficient. So I'm chmodding my file first, or no, directories. Where are my brackets? Ooh.
They were there before.
I'm missing certain shapes. Here. Okay. 10.5. All right. Slash. And
Lightning bolt.
semicolon. Where to go? Numbers. Of course, that's where a semicolon is. Numbers. So that was my command there. Find, I think that's in WP content, type directory, execute chmod is your permission, 755 is the permission in passing, and then I don't know what this matchful stuff is at the end. I'll return.
Just type it right now.
Nothing yelled at me.
I think that escapes the semicolon, so it can close the exec command or the chmod command. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, now I'm going to type the exact same command, but instead of a D, it's going to be an F for files.
Uh-oh.
And that will conclude my terminal time. So find in WP content.
Want you up arrow to bring back the last command?
That's too efficient. Okay. F. Exec. And then for this, we're doing a different file permission. It's 644 for files. And now I have to find those curly brackets under more again. And do my / a semicolon, return. All right, and now I'm done changing the permissions for my site. So that means the rest of this is just WordPress time. Okay, let's go back to my browser and my magical site. And now what I love about WordPress on the desktop, and I appreciate it even more on my mobile phone, is the ability to browse for themes and plugins from this interface, because obviously that changes things significantly. So I can go to Appearance, Themes, Add New. Now I already picked out a theme ahead of time. So I'm going to do this theme called Editor. Now remember, we're building a mobile-only site here. So I am somebody who caters only to people who want mobile sites. So I will not be looking at or testing this theme on a desktop. I can sort of get an idea of what it'll look like through the thumbnails because they don't have responsive thumbnails on here. I don't think they've anticipated that we'll be installing these themes from our phone, but I expect there to be a track ticket for that in the future. So let's see, editor. Why did it not come up? There it is. All right. Now, one thing I have discovered is even though this will show you the theme in this interface, I've found the preview in this interface. However, if I install the theme and then I preview it with my content, that bug seems to be fixed. So it's actually only in that add interface. And remember, we already changed our file permissions, so it tells me that's successful. I can go ahead and click live preview if I would like to see it with my content. Of course, I don't have any content, but I can collapse and I could install a dozen themes and see what my mobile-only site looks like trying on those themes without actually having applied it yet. And I like this, so I'll go ahead and save and activate. So now I have my new handy-dandy theme, but because I am a purveyor of best practices, I don't want to edit this theme. So I actually want to create a child theme from it. So let's go into plugins, add new, and install child theme configurator. Go ahead and install that. I already know I like this plugin, so I don't need to try it on. I'll just go ahead and activate it. So that's active. And now if I go under Tools, Child Themes, I can create my new theme. So it's already filled it in for me in a nice way. I have editor child. I could rename that to mobile only or something more useful. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm happy enough, so I will generate and build my child. So I can test my child theme. It's created, but it's not applied yet. And I know it looks the same because I haven't done anything. So I will save and activate. And now I have a child theme. So if I go ahead and visit my site, it doesn't have any content. I haven't added any artwork yet. But of course, everything in here is ready for me to play with it. So I can go ahead and go to my sample page. And let's edit this page. I'll go ahead and insert picture, for example. No media because I haven't uploaded any, so I have to switch to upload. This would allow me to take a picture or select it from my library. I've installed a bunch of free image editors so I can have all my cool Instagram filters, but I'll just go ahead and select something random to insert here. And today I don't like accessibility, so I'm not going to add any alternate text or anything useful. But there it is, and so of course I can go ahead and publish. Now that same thing happens if I probably have to save this or something. Update. The same thing happens if I go back to my appearance theme configuration. I can set my logo, I can set colors, and then because I'm a real gunslinger from the West, here I am building a site for my phone. Of course, the next thing I want to try and do is edit my new theme. So I can do that through the editor. I can select files to break. I could use this this style sheet that I think is loaded after all of the other style sheets, and I can go ahead and put asterisk and do color red. Okay, and we're in save. Update. Loading. Visit my site. And it did some red stuff. I can set a background image on the theme. Again, from my phone, I can insert photos. I can edit anything I have access to through the WordPress editor. And that's my demo. So that's however much time that took, I was able, now granted I used an iPhone 6 with a slightly larger screen for this, but when I originally did it, I used my 4. The 6 wasn't out yet. And again, I used all free apps. So a couple of the other apps that I used, I'll go ahead and show you before I end my talk. I did want to select specific things in the theme and do this more like a typical design process. So I installed a couple of theme viewers. I have 3 of them. The better one, I think is this script browser. So let's see. For some reason, all of these needed me to put HTTP in them. They weren't smart enough to just go. So now I can switch to source. And just like using Inspector on your browser, if I wanted to figure out a specific piece of HTML in my page that I wanted to affect in my style sheet, I could do that. Unfortunately, Safari doesn't have a built-in source viewer. Chrome might. And then again, I installed a handful of image editors because when I did this the first time, I ended up resizing and cropping some photos because I wanted them to be mobile optimized. And that's it. Any questions?
While you're answering questions, you might want to change your password.
I'll just delete that.
Any questions for you?
When you use wget, did you, since you're on a shared server, did you have to give it any special permissions or?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Originally, when I used a different command when I was trying to change permissions, and it wouldn't let me do that. But for wget, it didn't. It gave me a certificate error, and that's where I had to add that the ignore the certificate flag initially. But as soon as I did that, it worked fine.
One other one. Any special recommendations maybe on themes designed specifically for mobile?
Anything tag responsive, but you can look at it and see what it looks like. Even if you don't apply your content to it, you can preview it. So now, I guess I'll end on one point, and that is, do I think the entire US is going to start building sites on mobile devices? No, I don't think so. But in the end, if you look at web traffic this fall, global mobile traffic hit 1/3. I think that was in September or October. It hit 1/3 of all traffic, with 2/3 reserved for desktop. Desktop sales, of course, plateaued in 2012, and they've actually been in decline, not an uptick. So they're projecting that by the end of this year, of 2015, we'll be at 50-50. And if you account for not only China and India, but all of the other countries that have been untouched by the internet that will get a budget smartphone before they will get a phone, you can quickly see how the mobile traffic is going to eclipse desktop traffic. So there will be a use case, even in this country, for companies that will say, we don't have desktop users, we cater to mobile only. So that's it.
I would consider using at least an iPad, but it works. Some other things is obviously, of course, there's WordPress.com. A lot of posts have like one-click install. Also, the entire time he did that, I didn't quite get Drupal installed. I actually tried doing that on my computer, not on a phone.
WPCLI.
Yeah. So we have 2 more quick things. Neither of them will be long. I think like a few minutes each. For those of you who don't know who I am, because there were a lot of new faces, my name is Andy Nason. I am one of the, thanks Connor, I'm one of the former, I used to run this meetup group. Leland has very graciously taken over pretty much all of the responsibilities, and a number of others have been helping him out as well. I'm one of the lead developers for WordPress. I live here in DC. I run most things related to building WordPress core data.
So I'll be around if you guys have any questions, want to know about any of the work we do. We mainly work with government, nonprofits, and big foundations. Offices here in DC, Alexandria, Virginia, and Seattle. So let me know if you have any questions, and I also have cards. If anybody's looking for a job, we're always
say you guys hiring?
Always hiring. Thanks.
While Courtney's getting set up, what we normally do at the end of the meetup, for those of you who don't know and haven't been here before, we typically do a little thing where we ask if anyone is hiring, company they work for, or themselves, of course, hiring, and also if anyone is particularly looking for a job. So maybe start thinking about that. It'll only be in like 5 minutes or so. But just a quick hit of like what you're looking for if you're looking for a job, or if you're hiring, of course, what positions are available. I can already tell you right now that Automatic is hiring, 10up is hiring, Forum 1, of course, is hiring, and probably a few other places. So if you need a job, this should not be a problem. This is like the easiest networking event to ever attend. So that said, Courtney, thanks, guys.
All right, so everyone stand up for 1 second. Up, 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 up. Up, up, up. Okay, shake. This is only going to be a couple minutes, but everyone looks like they need some sort of shake. Okay. This is fast. This is fun. You can sit down. And my slides are not remotely as cheerful. So go with the flow. All right, so I'm going to show you how you can get involved with WordPress if you are not already. And I'm not talking about how to get involved with it by making your own website, though that is completely awesome and you should do that. But I'm talking about how to help WordPress.org. So we're going to talk about the awesome and amazing world of WordPress contributor groups. Contributor groups, oh my God, what are those? Well, what does it mean to contribute? It means to give. Sometimes it's giving money, sometimes it's giving time, sometimes it's giving things, and you might be giving them to a person, to a group, etc. It causes something to happen, and it might be you writing something. Now, I loved this definition because what I'm going to talk about is all three. So contributor groups, what on earth are those? Well, as Nathan, stealing my important part of the slides.
Sorry.
It's okay. If you go to make.wordpress.org, you can find a huge list of different groups that need people to help them. But also, as Nathan said, this is something that can also help you. What we're creating are pieces that you can then use. So come and see it and see if there's something you want to give back. And sometimes giving back is just using it and telling us, that really sucked. Or, oh my gosh, that was amazing. We're going to get a little bit more into that in a second. So you can get involved with WordPress. What does that mean? It means you can do support, you can do docs, you can do community, you can do themes, you can do plugins, you can do meta. You can do so many things. But what we're going to talk about, because I have 5 minutes, is training. I am the co-lead on the team training, and we actually have someone here who's on the team training. Hi, Beth. Hi. We create downloadable lesson plans that instructors can use for live demos. This is very important. We often get people who come in and say, so you've made some training materials that I can use to learn how to use WordPress. No, we have not. But yes, we have. We've created materials that someone else could use, and you could sit in a class and you could learn about it. And these are materials that should allow any trainer to teach something that perhaps they only have limited experience with themselves. So this does not require you, if you want to use them, to be a WordPress expert. It requires you to be comfortable standing in front of people and working with them as they try to figure it out. Hopefully you've run it a few times yourself so that you've actually figured it out. So here is a picture at WordCamp San Francisco of the team training group. The lovely woman standing up over there is Tracy. She is my partner in crime in this at the moment. And these are all the amazing people who came to our table at San Francisco and decided to help us make training materials. So how do you get there? Well, as Nathan said before, make.wordpress.org. But if you put /training, you'll get to our webpage. So let's take a 10-second detour, if the internet's working, and see what that looks like. So here is make.wordpress.org. See if we can make it big. On our homepage, you'll see recent updates. That's usually whatever our last meeting was. We have a meeting once a week. It's on Tuesdays. And if you're on the East Coast, which hopefully all of you are, it is at 1 p.m. at the moment. When the time changes, it will be at 2. Very confusing for me. We do a recap every single week of what we've done. So what is it that we do every week? We go through and we talk about what we've created. As you can see here, we often create new lesson plans. And then we ask for people to go and test them. And if you're interested in writing lesson plans, then we would love to talk with you. If you're interested in testing lesson plans, we would love to talk with you. If you're interested in copy editing because you're very good at it, we would love to talk with you. So we have a lot of amazing things that you can do. So let's go back to, where were we? Right here. And as I just said, here are some of the roles that we're really looking for people. We need writers. If you have ever written lesson plans or written your own curriculum, this is an amazing place where you can really give back. If you are good at design, if you want to teach to beginners or advanced, this is a great place to get back. Here is another picture of another day in San Francisco. As you can see, we had a lot of helpers. Our table is and that is all I really have to say. If you have tech skills that you don't feel like are appropriate for this, go to Make, check it out, and see if something else fits you. If you have no tech skills and you're here and you're learning them and you don't feel like anything I said on team training would make sense, or any of the other teams that I just mentioned, there are ones like TV. What is the main name of that one now?
It's WordPress TV.
It is TV.
Yeah.
And you can go in and you can transcribe videos. That is so important. Once they get transcribed in English, we've had a lot of volunteers go and transcribe them in other languages. So now you're helping and making those wonderful videos available for people around the world. So hopefully this will inspire you to give back and take a look and get something out of it too. Thank you. Go get pizza, and then come back and we'll talk about jobs. No, Mason's gonna
You can send my notes, I'll take over. I don't have any other announcements other than, is there anyone who is hiring? Taylor, 10 up. There you go.
Hey everybody, my name is Taylor Lovett. I work for a company called 10 Up. We're one of the biggest WordPress agencies in the world. We do a lot of really big WordPress projects for high-level clients, and we are always hiring engineers, web designers, project managers, account managers, business-related people. If anyone is interested, please see applicants. Thank you.
Fully remote.
Fully remote.
Yeah.
That's correct. Another hand in the back? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm working with a client that's on K Street. It's a mid-sized company looking for a WordPress developer with experience with site entity. On the back end, I'm also looking for full UX UI guys. So I'm working with them directly and just working with them.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Hi, Dave Ronaldo.
Scott Johnson and myself, with Rockford Strategic Marketing and Chief, we're hiring project manager, UX, front-end dev, design, pretty much the universe that everyone else is working on. We do work in government, commercial, nonprofit, and association. And we have several positions available for all owners.
Anyone else? Kevin?
Yeah, I'm Kevin. I work for Automatic, which makes WordPress.com, and Jetpack is one of those. And we're always hiring in all positions, front-end, back-end developers, support. And we're fully remote too, so you can work from everyone. So come see me if you're interested in that.
Anyone else? Okay, I have one. I know of a few government agencies that are looking for very high-level WordPress people. In particular, there is a major federal agency that is looking for a chief architect right now. If this is something that is interesting to you, even if you already have a job, please come let me know.
Full-time job?
Full-time, on-site, running a fairly major two and a half hours away, I guess. Really good, really cool event. They did one last year. It turned out really great. If you're interested in something more like that, wordcamp.org.
Speaker applications until the 15th.
Yeah, if you want to speak at a WordCamp, you can do that. If you want to speak at a future WordPress meetup about something cool that you've done, you do not need to be a developer. You do not need to be a designer. You ideally are a WordPress user. That's about it. Cool use case, perhaps, for example, like a guy's case study, something cool that you worked on or wrote, or we've also done things along the lines of like content strategy and personal branding and things that relate to people who are using WordPress. So if you're interested in that, please talk to Leland. Failing that myself, but please Leland. And then you have something, I imagine, because you're standing up here.
Yeah. So I was going to say we can announce WordCamp Lancaster.
I already did.
They're doing a call for speakers, but they're not.
We already got that.
Yeah. And that's actually the 14th, I think.
It's tomorrow.
It's due tomorrow. Okay.
We talked about it today on the training chat.
14th.
Okay. I have nothing else. Do you have anything else? Okay. We'll post the next meetup soon. Normally, we're angling for Tuesdays. It's normally the second or third Tuesday of the month. It is somewhere in this general downtown area. This is the first time we're in this space. This is a really cool space. Forum 1, thank you very much. This was really, really great. It's 8:26. There is some more pizza if you would like it. There's some more drinks if you would like that. Please network and then enjoy the rest of your evening. And don't get too cold. Thank you all.